Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dissecting Dance, Kicking It with Ran podcast, the podcast that opens up discussions about topics in dance. The goal of this podcast is to allow dancers and non dancers alike to think about dance from new perspectives, as well as leaving room for discussion. Enjoy the show! Hello, everybody. Welcome to our most current episode of Dissecting Dance, Kicking It with Ran podcast. We have another guest, Lauren. Say hi.
Hello.
Yeah. So this is super exciting. I am a little brain dead today, so we'll see how this goes.
Well, I
Um,
well, I am too, so no problem.
Perfect. So it's a collective brain dead experience.
We'll make it through.
We'll make it through. We got it. So, would you like to give the people a bit of an introduction on yourself?
Yes. So my name is Lauren Tait, and I am a choreographer and dance educator and former nonprofit administrator for many years. And the way I know Ren is through my work at Kinetics Dance Theater, where I was artistic director. I left in 2020, and I now live. I split time between a little town in Lancaster, Pennsylvania called Lidditz and Annapolis, Maryland. And I kind of do freelance choreography work. I'm doing some subbing, I'm doing some festivals and choreography submissions. And 2 years ago, I launched a new dance company here in Lidditz called Forward Dance Company. And so I'm the director of Forward Dance Company. And that's it.
Cool. Awesome. So, can you give us an idea on like what your background looked like and how you got to where you were,
Sure.
or how you got to where you are today?
Um, well, my earliest my earliest dance lessons, I don't even remember. I started
Mm.
really young. I think when I was two when I started, and apparently I started because I was begging for dance lessons, but I
Mhm.
don't remember that. Um, and so I danced recreationally all through my childhood, and it was fun. I liked it. I wasn't super serious about it, um, whereas I could have been. There were definitely people around me who were more serious, taking more classes, and I was kind of I liked it, but I liked other things too. And so when I was approaching my high school years, a new magnet school opened up in my area, a school for the arts. And I was really excited about the prospect of maybe going there for high school. So I filled out the application and I ended up getting in. So I went to high school at Carver Center for the Arts and Technology in Towson, Maryland. I was part of their first freshman class back in 1993, I think. And that really changed my outlook as a dancer. We went right back to the basics, and we kind of thought that we had experience dancing coming in. I did anyway. I thought, hey, I've been dancing for a long time. It was very humbling to go into classes. We alternated ballet and modern, and it was a lot of dance. We also did history and composition and improvisation and repertory and anatomy and physiology. It was a great program, and I danced a lot. And we went back to the basics and built from there. And that's when I really got serious about dancing. And so then, fast forward 4 years, thinking about college. I had a list of places that I wanted to go, and I wanted to go for dance, but I also was at the point where I wanted to double major because I wasn't fully committed. I definitely wanted to dance, but I also wasn't sure if there was, more I wanted to explore. So I ended up, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship that was based on academic and dance merit. And I had a wonderful experience at UMBC. Just great faculty. I did double major and I minored and I had a certificate program. I decided to make the most of those years. By the end of that time, I thought maybe I was going to go into something other than dance. Again, not because I didn't want to dance, but because I always felt drawn to other things also. And so I thought about leaving it, and I did leave. I worked in the psych field for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years after college. And then I really wanted to go back to dancing. And I ended up joining a small company, and I had tears in my eyes the first rehearsal that I went to. Just being in a room full of dancers made me really happy. And so I started teaching and choreographing and dancing a bit, performing a bit here and there, and it was wonderful. Eventually, I took over the leadership position at Kinetics Dance Theater, which is a nonprofit organization in Ellicott City, Maryland. And that job was amazing for me because it fulfilled all of my creative wishes. I loved being in the studio with kids and adults. I loved choreographing. I had a professional company to work with there in residence, but I also loved the other parts of the job, like business and marketing and strategy and HR and team, working with a team. I liked wearing all of those different hats and performance planning and, all of it. So that job was wonderful, and I got to do some great collaborations. And in 2020, I I stepped down from Kinetics, which was planned because I had since been living separately from my husband, who was based in Pennsylvania, for about 4 years. And we decided that 4 years was probably enough, and that we might want to, at some point live together. So I was planning for this move for quite some time. So 2020, I did step down. I did not realize that that would be in the midst of COVID. So that was an odd time to leave, but I was excited to go on to next steps and start new projects, which I did not do in the midst of COVID very much, but I have been for the past 2 or 3 years. And that brings us to the present. Well, I guess I didn't really talk much about what I'm doing now. I launched Forward Dance Company, and I've we've done 2 seasons of performances, and that has been great fun. We also, my husband and I, we've built a black box theater here in Lidditz. And so we're able to use the theater for our shows for Forward Dance Company. And we're not the only ones using the theater by any means. We just have a little bit of time every year that we use the theater. But the theater, we have a lot of emerging artists coming through. We have a lot of music coming through, some theater, some dance, and yeah. So that actually brings us to the present.
Awesome. Thank you. That's so cool. Like that's such like a fascinating background to have. So how did you make that jump from, just being a teacher slash choreographer to artistic director of a company?
It was slow in coming. I was there for about 9 years. I was teaching
Hmm.
there for about 9 years, and I was taking on various smaller leadership roles before that happened. And it came about quite naturally. It just, it felt like I was ready to do it. It was wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah. Because I remember like literally before COVID, or before you left, I don't remember a time when you weren't artistic director. You were always there.
Well, then, so I think I took over as artistic director in either 2013 or 2014, and
Really?
I have actually conflicting notes on it. So I could go back and figure it out, but it's one of the two for sure. And before that, I was not artistic director, but I was at Kinetics.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean,
Just
uh,
timing, I'm sure. I wasn't there forever before. Kinetics has a long history, and actually, one of the former artistic directors was Ken Scrishez, who was one of my high school teachers, one of my high school
Hmm.
dance teachers, and who I continued to take class with, and kind of he's been a mentor as well, who I've stayed in touch with all through those years since high school, and excited to take over it because I remember as a high school student going to
Hmm.
take class with him a couple of times. And I didn't even realize where I was. I just knew that I was going to take class with Ken. And I went
Yeah.
and I took class with Ken. And I didn't realize actually until I started teaching at Kinetics that this is the same place.
No, that's understandable. No, that definitely makes sense. So you primarily grew up in ballet and modern, is that correct?
No, I didn't take modern until high school. I
Okay.
grew up doing ballet, tap, and jazz.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fun. So, so knowing you for many years, I know that modern is your thing.
Yes.
Yes. So,
I love modern. And I tap. I started tapping again
you
as
do
an
tap.
adult.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's almost like a different persona, the other Lauren. I no, I do love both. Um, and occasionally those two worlds intersect, but they are kind of separate, oddly, my modern work and
Hmm.
my tap work.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, what is your favorite style of modern?
gosh.
Right.
Well,
Or
I
in other words, sorry. In other words, what styles of modern do you primarily teach slash choreograph with?
sure. I would say my first answer would probably be Limon technique,
Hmm.
with just that the ideas of suspension and release. I really find that paying attention to those peaks and valleys in movement informs a lot, and thinking about levels going, low to high. I really draw on those qualities a lot. However, I think that what my favorite thing about modern dance is that it's kind of and contemporary, both together. I think, although there are codified techniques, and I do like those techniques, I love that the possibilities are kind of infinite. And I
Hmm.
love that each new piece presents an opportunity to invent something, a sequence of movement, or try something that you haven't done before, and try to get into qualities or ideas that are completely new.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what's so cool about modern dance because that was why it was created. And that's why it branched out from ballet, was because these like modern pioneers, they wanted to kind of break free from that whole, we don't want to do ballet, like,
Right? Why are we only dancing for an aesthetic? Why are we only
right.
striving to tell these old stories, and this rigid technique? Now, I do love ballet as well,
Hmm.
but it doesn't compete with modern for me. I actually still take a ballet class from time to time. I actually just bought point shoes, which is one of the most insane things I've ever done at 40. Well, I am 44. I am past my point shoe wearing years. And
Hmm.
when I retired my point shoes, I did so with gusto. I was very happy to chuck those things. But I just bought point shoes, because actually there's this new design. They're 3D printed point shoes, and
What? Yeah.
you heard of them?
Yes, I've seen it on social media.
They're called Actable, and I was just studying them and trying to figure them out and commenting. this is so interesting. I haven't seen point shoe technology change in so long. I wonder what this is like. And I thought, I wish this had happened while I was dancing on point. And then I thought, well, I mean, technically, really, you're not too old. So I ordered them, and thank goodness there was a long wait list. And I actually was, doing my point work. I was doing my prep point work every day as part of my workout, um,
Hmm.
so that I could not injure my ankles when I finally put them on.
Yeah.
And now I have them, and I've worn them a handful of times. I took class in them, and I don't think I'm going to return to the stage on my point shoes anytime soon. But it's kind of fun to experience, something new in ballet and in point.
I'm curious to know how they felt in comparison to like the standard point shoes. Because like you said, point shoes have never really evolved outside of these like new like 3D printed
Well,
point
there's
shoes.
a 20-year difference between my A/B test, which probably isn't a good research strategy. Um, so and I'm not dancing at the technical level that I was when I was wearing the other point shoes. And
Hmm.
my body's different. Everything's different. So it's really hard to do an A B comparison. But here's what I've noticed. The shoes, they aren't as beautiful. Like the line of the shoes isn't as beautiful. And I don't know why exactly that is. Um, there's something about getting fully onto that box of a traditional point shoe, and then you can see the whole arch that I always thought was beautiful before I had the point shoes, and then I had the point shoes, and then I just thought they were painful. But
Hmm.
I do there's I don't know if the box is shaped slightly different, but it you don't quite get the full arch look on these. I haven't Even in pictures I haven't seen them, so I don't think it's just me, although it could be. Excuse me. But one thing that was really interesting is if you look at these shoes, the shank of the shoe is the 3D printed part, and there are these little slots along the arch that can open as far as you'd like them to, so that if you're going to roll up from flat and through demi point and up onto the box, you don't have to break in your shoes. They bend that
Hmm.
way pretty easily. But then once you are up and once you start curving the other way over your arch, they lock. They like the slots press together and they lock, and it actually holds quite a bit of weight. There's also a compression sock part of the shoe that that holds a lot of weight. So I found that I have a feeling that if I wore them on a regular basis, I wouldn't have the same blisters that I used to have. I think they're a bit more comfortable. I think they might be a great shoe for taking class, but maybe still not a great performance shoe.
Yeah.
Now, and again, and that is my inexpert opinion,
Mm.
just my initial thoughts about it, just, my experience.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. I No, I've seen them. I've seen it all over social media as it's like, check out this new innovative shoe that you can wear forever. And I
Oh,
was
I
like,
do think that they would last much longer than
yeah.
a standard point shoe, which might be, kind of cost effective for someone who's going through point shoes pretty quickly.
Hmm.
So I was just so curious. I had to try it. And they know who to advertise to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Very
coming through the
effective.
dancers.
Right.
We both knew about it. I am very curious on your modern dance background because nowadays, well, there's really like a lot going into it. Nowadays, the dance world overall is kind of shifting into this like contemporary realm. Not
Right.
necessarily modern dance is going away, but it's kind of transforming into contemporary,
Yeah.
um, in a sense. So I guess my question to you is, funny enough, question is slowly leaving my brain as I'm asking you the question.
That's good. I'm formulating my answer.
So, so as modern is, I'm not gonna say that modern is necessarily leaving the dance world. And I also do appreciate you're specifically saying modern and not contemporary, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Is when people are like, "Ah, they're the same." No, they're not. Um, so I guess how do you decipher modern and contemporary dance, and and since you're still in the modern dance realm, what are you doing to kind of maintain the style?
Well, I I guess I here my thoughts are. So I took classes from I took Graham and Taylor and Cunningham and Lamone and Horton. I took these classes, and I often took them from people who studied with with those companies. And so I didn't dance with any of those companies, but I feel like my generation often had the opportunity to dance with people who danced with those companies. And as the field has grown over time, I think there's a generational change so that when I go into the classroom, I'm not walking into the classroom as a Graham dancer or as a Taylor dancer. I'm walking into the classroom as a modern dancer who's studied all these different forms from different people. And then, what I choreograph is kind of an amalgamation. And then I guess at some point, the amalgamations continued and it became something different. And some for some reason we like to call our techniques things that relate to time that are all relative. So modern, postmodern,
Yeah.
contemporary, and then they're no longer modern or contemporary, but we still have to call them that. um, but I feel like um, it's just expanded and grown, and those techniques are still out there 100%. You can still go take a Graham class, or go
Mhm.
take a Cunningham class. But I think more dancers are exposed to more techniques over time, and then they're kind of nameless techniques, just what we make up, what we invent in the
Yeah.
studio. And I guess that's my take on what contemporary is, because it's related to modern, but it is something new on
Hmm.
its own. And I feel like it's broad and vague, and inventive, and it can mean different things. I feel early on contemporary meant something. I mean, I think I understood it to be a little bit more commercial at the beginning, and now it seems to have shifted to be more acceptable to call something more like what I would think of modern dance as contemporary dance. um, but I think that it's just a lot of the same ideas, but broadly applied to movement. So I guess what I do is contemporary, because I really am not. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. It could be called either. It's certainly, my background is modern,
Hmm.
um, but I don't really know where the line is.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
do I sense a difference, but I'm
Hmm.
not sure where it is.
Okay, yeah, that
That's
makes
okay.
sense. Hey, dance is dance. It's all about the vibes and having fun.
Well, yes. I mean, it's a joy. It's a joy.
Yes. So my next like category in finger quotes is like, I guess, your choreographic process, because I don't know if you know this, but the one of the main reasons I developed a love for choreography was because of your choreography. That was like one of my biggest inspirations.
That
So,
makes that makes me really happy to hear. I didn't know that. Really happy to hear.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Um, okay, my choreography process changes
Hmm.
all the time, but often what happens is I start to feel like I start to sense the idea of a piece and I kind of think about it for a little bit. And often it just plops right down at some point, like boom.
Hmm.
And I'm like, and I can see it. It's as though I can see it on the stage. And I don't know what the specific steps are. I have to figure that out. I have to
Hmm.
figure out how to get to what I'm imagining. But I see something. And there's music, and well, there's not always music, but there's usually music. Um, but often I have to then find the music that I'm imagining. So I do also save songs when I find interesting bits of, music. I save them to, like, I have the longest list of ideas
Hmm.
there ever was. But usually once I have an idea, there's music that I can almost hear and I know what I want it to sound like. And so I've spent days and weeks looking for music to suit what I want. I should just learn. I should team up with a composer. I actually thought about getting one of those composer apps and seeing if I could create something. I don't know that that would go well, but um, finding music is usually a part of my process. Um,
Yeah.
and I Google things like song that sounds bubbly and also like elephants stampeding or like um
Yeah.
so and and then I like to create worlds. I see dance still as presentational most of the time. That's what makes me excited about it
Hmm.
most of the time. And that's not the same for a lot of choreographers. For a lot of choreographers, I think it comes from a more internal spot, but I'm thinking about creating a world. And I'm thinking about it's very usually theatrical. There's lighting, there are costumes. I also make costumes sometimes because I have an idea. I have my dress form back here behind me. Um, so I often make the costumes. Um, so it's really about um, really diving deep and getting into whatever my inspiration is and creating that world.
Well, so you're very much like set the scene. Um, you see the image in your head. It's just putting the pieces together, essentially.
Yes, yes. And I really want to make dance for other people.
Hmm.
And I believe that dance is for everyone. I mean, not if you don't want to do it, that's fine. You don't have to dance. But I think that there's a way in for non-dancers, for children, for, all ages. And I really like um, creating something that is worth other people's time to come and look at. And I want to make something that people I want it of a quality that people want to come and see it, and it's exciting and relevant and bold. And I don't always succeed,
Hmm.
but that is my goal, to make something that can become part of a conversation. And so often when I plan performances, I plan a reception or a discussion after, so that there is that opportunity, because dance is fleeting. It exists in the moment that you do it, and then a recording is just doesn't do it justice. They're great for archives, but it's not something like music where you can enjoy the recording. Not that
Right.
live music isn't wonderful, but dance, you can't encapsulate it in the same way that you can for some other arts. Like, a sculpture will be a sculpture forever, or hopefully as long as possible. um, but dance isn't like that. It's just, it goes away pretty quickly. It's very fleeting. And so I love having an opportunity to greet audiences and go into unconventional places and do workshops and talk about, this is the costume, this is the idea, this is the, can you, one of my pieces is about bugs. Do you
Mhm.
want to, skitter like a beetle, or, move wings like a butterfly, or whatever the idea is, just kind of getting it out to people in a way that um, I think of it kind of as a conversation. It's not just I do it and that's it. Bye.
Yeah, so you put a lot of like thought into it. A lot of
Yeah, I really want to draw people in. I want to invite people in, um,
yeah.
even to the artistic process.
And that's what dance should be about. It's supposed, I mean, dance involves so many people. It really is like a team effort. Uh,
Yes.
so it should be about like the collaborative process. That's really cool. That's thought formulating. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just remember like being a kid and being so like fascinated by your choreography because you were one of the few teachers that I've had where it kind of hit me that you were choreographing things that didn't have any turns or pirouettes or ballet technique because during my time we were a more technical studio in that regard. So being in your class and like being like, oh my gosh, wait, there's this whole like other sector of dance where you can make stuff up and have it still be classified as movement. I found that very inspiring. So I another random off-topic memory is that I remember like in high school, one of the years that I had you as a teacher, we had this project and and where we basically choreographed a dance to based on a painting that was hung up in our high school. And I found a picture of like outer space. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to choreograph a dance without any turns, without any jumps, just movement, and it's going to be outer space.
I love it.
I was so excited. I think I
Was that a
started,
composition class, Ren, or was that a modern class? Do you remember?
so this was in a public high school. So it was this class in particular, it was just a final project.
Okay, got it.
We did a variety of, or I think that year I was in the company, like their junior company, so we mainly just did repertory. And then our final project was choreographing pieces, like choreographing on
I
ourselves.
would love to see that piece. Do you remember it? Is it, I don't know. Is it still out there somehow? Or what, can you
It's
describe
somewhere.
it?
I have it somewhere. Yeah, I
I love
remember.
the idea.
Thanks. Yeah, it's out there. I'll definitely send it to you. Pause for a second. We
I know when I teach a composition class, I'm I don't want to see a movement that we have, that, it's a learned dance movement that has a name. I want that to go away. Now, that doesn't mean you can't turn, but the turn has to be the part of something else. It has to,
Mhm.
the turn has to have its own reason for turning,
Yeah.
instead of just saying, hey, I have 3 seconds here. I think I'll throw in a pirouette.
Right. Yeah, like with choreographing dances, I think that sometimes like, when you choreograph, and I'm not saying this is a bad method, it's just not my favorite method. You have a specific like toolbox of a list of different movements in your brain and kind of like kind of like what you were saying, like it's so much more fascinating to just like explore what the human body is capable of versus like incorporating movements that already exist that people have seen before.
And there's a level of training that has to be undertaken just to be able to get into the space where you can do that. And so dance it takes a lifetime to train for the technical part of it. And then you realize, gosh, there's more. There's still more. There's always more. But learning to be able to use that, to let it go, to draw on it, um, is a whole nother part of it. And I love working even with non-dancers on with creative prompts and composition esque exercises, um, because it's so I see it when I see it hitting like that creative
Mm-hmm.
um, essence. It makes me so happy. And at this end, I also adore working with dancers who do have a high level of technical training and are able to move freely on top
Mm-hmm.
of it. I get frustrated. I don't love, well, I do, I love, there's really very little that I don't love in the studio, but I love working with dancers who have the physical capability to, do something amazing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, and and inventive, something new, interesting. Um, so I do value both of those things for sure. And it's fun. It's interesting to see the training um, go side by side, because I really think to dance at that level, obviously you have to continue with technical training, um, and you still have to keep that ability to veer away from it as well, to be
Yeah.
creative with it.
Yeah. It's almost like you start out with the technique, but then like in order to become a master of it, you have to be able to know your own body and knowing what you can do with your body outside of a thesaurus of moves.
Right. I
Yeah.
often, when I go, so um, I love going to museums, and I am fascinated to see the arc of some artists, um, like Picasso. If you look at his earlier work, it's much less abstract, uh,
Hmm.
but it is beautiful. It's beautifully articulated, and you can see a level of mastery there. And then you fast forward it, or you watch the evolution, and you see different periods and things, experimentation with different things, and you see a whole different level of mastery in something that looks deceivingly kind of simple, but is not. There's skill behind it. And
Yeah.
so I think that can be the same in dance as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's definitely like you definitely have the beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then expert levels.
Yeah, except I think part of being an expert is knowing that you do not, there's a whole lot that you don't know.
Yeah. But that's what makes dance so cool is that you can't, it's almost impossible to like achieve full of blown perfection. Like there's always room for growth and expansion on anything.
Absolutely.
So cool. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I miss your choreography. I
Well,
really
come
do.
to Pennsylvania sometime,
I'll,
or
I'll,
I'm still in Maryland sometimes. So,
yeah, I'll maneuver my way up there at some point. Just trying to get my life together.
as are all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, did want to take a moment of appreciation for your choreography because as I mentioned, like you really did play a big factor in like my development of words, of formulating movements that don't like, exist. They do exist,
They
but
don't have a
not,
name yet.
yeah, they don't have a name. And that when it's funny because when I remembered choreographing that dance, I was like, this move doesn't have a name. That move doesn't have a name. And I was like,
Sounds like a fantastic premise.
it yeah, I mean, it was a fun process. I'm still, I mean, finding music was an absolute nightmare. Finding music is not my specialty.
Oh, you do the same that I do. I'm sorry. I think that's the hardest way to do it when you have to find your music. When there's
Yeah.
what you're
It,
looking for.
yeah, like you want, like it's in your head, like you hear the music.
Yes.
I'm having to Google search like dark, ominous, but also kind of neutral, hollow sounding music, instrumental.
Yes. I've Googled that. I think I've probably Googled that. I feel like an amoeba when I'm looking for music. So
Right.
I discovered that on Spotify, I mean a while ago, I discovered on Spotify that they give you, once you find a song or an artist, they give you recommendations for similar artists or similar music. And that was the way I would find my music often, is to go start with something maybe in my list that was maybe a little kind of close, kind of
Yeah.
had met some of the requirements but wasn't quite it. And I would go listen to all of the recommended artists, and if there was one that was a little bit closer, I would click on that one. And then I would listen to the next list of recommended
Yeah.
artists and then get closer and closer. And so in that way, I felt like I was blindly kind of very slowly making my way towards something um, closer to what I wanted.
Yeah. I think with that piece, I think I just because at that point I was like watching because I know that like Kinetics has like a YouTube channel with a lot of the professional company videos. So I was like I would find music that I liked, but I couldn't figure out what the name was. So I would spend an hour like searching for the music and then I would use that and it worked. But I just remember through the process, every week we would do check-ins to see how our pieces were going. And I would stand in front of my teacher and I would tell her, "Hey, so I'm just kind of choreographing. I don't have music yet." And I think it took me until the last 2 to 3 weeks until I finally decided that I had music that I
Yeah.
wanted.
Do
And
you edit
apparently,
music?
um, in that class I didn't. I think it was more, I mean, I think we could if we wanted to, but I don't think it was like a prominent thing that we had to do.
Yeah.
A
I
lot of,
often edit because I like a certain part of this music and a certain part of that music. So I layer it
mhm,
on, which does raise questions about um, the who, who owns the rights of the music. And I do
yeah,
pay ASCAP and BMI, et cetera, et cetera. But I am I do change the music to suit what I'm doing. I'll splice things together and add something on top of it.
mhm,
A, some kind of sound effect is on top of it, or I fade it. I shape it to what I need, which also seems like, and I'm sure this is happening in plenty of programs, but I've done only a little bit of this. Putting a group of, putting a dance composition class in contact with a music composition class could be pretty fun.
yeah. No, that's a good idea. I'm waiting for a program to do something like that, especially in like the university level. Finding, I thought finding music just in general was hard until I was actually choreographing pieces that was going to be performed in like an actual proscenium theater. Then it got way harder
Yes.
because part of it was we had to email and reach out. We had to find like whoever owned the copyright of the music. Like, and if you wanted to use splices of music, you had to email everybody
Yes,
and ask for
absolutely.
permission.
And it's still on shaky ground, really, because
Yeah.
maybe they don't approve fully of your splicing choices,
Hmm.
and it is their music. So it is. I don't know what the answer is. I I do. It is their music. I am I am shaping it to my vision. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was more so complaining. I wasn't expecting you to know.
Yeah, I still haven't figured that one out.
Yeah, I wish there was like a more comprehensive way for dance to be able, like, to allow, because in program notes you give credit to the composer already. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's enough, but it's not enough. Like sometimes they want monetary gain.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured it out.
Yeah. That would be nice. That's a good little goal for the future.
We just need to compose music. I mean, really.
Exactly. No, my first work, my first like work that I ever presented was like a dance video because haha, COVID. I was so tired of the copyright that I literally this time I did like the comparison or like the not comparison, but contrasting fire and water and the different elements of fire and water that
Love
kind of
it.
go into it. And so my butt was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to reach out for copyright permission on water sounds. Like, that's stupid.
Well, you can buy
Um,
it, and that's allowed, right?
You, I mean, technically it is, but I just
I
thought,
mean, a lot of what I mean is I think a lot of the things that you buy, the sound effects you can buy royalty free,
yeah, I mean, that was a process. I had
or
a,
you can use music from the public domain, but then
mhm,
you still have to, you have to credit the performer for
right,
the music, the player.
right. Yeah. I mean, the difficult part was like finding like even if you Google search public domain water sounds, which by the way, I did drive all the way to a beach just to record sounds of the waves. It was worth it.
Did it work?
Um, it worked, yeah.
That's amazing. Of course.
It and I did like studying the sounds like of the fire and the water because I also like recorded fire too. They
And
sound
it's more authentic.
yeah,
That's that's the ideal. It's
yeah,
difficult to do that if we aren't musicians, but for things like that, that's fantastic.
thank you. Yeah. No, that I did that to avoid the copyright issues. But
Yeah.
it'd be nice to see like dancers kind of being exposed to creating their own musical compositions, like via computer program or
Yeah. It
learning an
sounds
instrument.
fun.
That would be fun. And we'd have the knowledge to get exactly what we want out of our music as music finder strugglers.
Right. Imagine if we could just like make it real from our brain to the recording. Just make it
Yeah,
sound exactly the way you imagine it. Although, again, not only would you have to learn how to do it, but you'd have to become a pro. I mean,
yeah,
depending on what you wanted. Or again, collaboration. Collaboration
yep,
is a great thing with a
yep,
musician.
yes, yes, we love, yeah, collaboration. Okay, yeah. I just wanted to touch on the choreography part because I like I like choreography and I like your choreography. So,
Ren, do you remember? I
yeah.
don't know if you saw my show called Bugged. It was one of
I
my family concert series productions.
um I remember it, but I don't remember if I watched it. Like I don't think I was as involved
Well, that's
when
okay.
it first came
I've
out.
been, I had such fun creating a whole dance about various types of bugs that I wanted to go back to that idea and explore it
Hmm.
farther. And so I have been working on that show, on developing it
Hmm.
these past 2 years, and I've kind of redone it, and it's called Love Bug, and I've been working with it on my company, and we have a bunch of new bugs, and it's really fun. Bugs are. I didn't do this because I love bugs. I did it because I thought bugs were really an interesting inspiration. Just the way they look and the way they move is so unique. Every bug moves
Yeah.
so differently, and they have fascinating structures and behaviors. And so um, we we've been building this show called Love Bug, and that's been a really fun choreography exercise.
That's awesome. And like restaging a work too is like super fun.
Oh, going being able to go back to something is great because I feel like I'm me personally, I usually in one season or what in one, rehearsal round, I feel like I often don't get to what I wanted to get to. I only start to get to it and then I want to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many like you always look back on like, ah, I should have done that.
Yeah, and it
Like,
becomes for me it becomes more clear as time goes on. It's like the piece is still revealing itself even to me,
mhm.
and sometimes it reveals itself after it's been performed.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of putting on shows, so as you mentioned in the beginning of this episode, um, you have your own theater,
Yes.
um, which in my opinion, and I think every dancer would agree with me when I say this, is that that's the dream. Like having being able to choreograph your own show and being able to incorporate it in your own space. So,
Yeah, it is a joy to do. Um, it still has the same. So venues can, depending on where you are, venues can be really challenging to find, and I found that in Maryland, in the Baltimore area, it was increasingly difficult to schedule shows
mhm,
because there was very little availability with a lot of the venues that we liked to use. Uh, and so yes, having the theater is, I do have a level of access and I can get in beforehand. I can bring my dancers in during the day to block things out in the space, so we do have that level of access, which is really helpful. But that said, our theater is new and we're still slowly building the equipment. And so I don't have the lighting system that that some other venues would have, um, like a full dance LED lighting system. Um, we have to kind of work towards what we want to achieve on stage. But having the opportunity to do that is wonderful. And there's a lot going on in the theater. So even, I still have to reserve my time and I don't have full access all the
mhm.
time. We want it to be in use. So um, it's not, it's not, yeah, there are still challenges, but yeah, it is wonderful to have a space, and it is a beautiful space. It's a
Yeah.
nice size. Um, it's about 350 or 400 seated, which is a great size. It's not huge, but it
Mhm.
feels like you can hear the audience, you can feel the audience when you're dancing, and I think that's really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I think the fact that you have like a theater, that's like to me, that's like impressive enough for me. Like just being able to have a space, even if you have to work with like equipment that you don't necessarily have the capacity to have yet, or the just I don't know, just the idea of having a space that you can, like you said, like block things out. Like
Yes,
like I think that's like the biggest part of that's like the biggest component of it.
yes. My husband's um, my husband is retired now, but his business was based here in Lidditz, and his company is still in existence, and they build sets for the entertainment business. And so this was kind of a project that he wanted to undertake, just as um, a place, for the community to showcase emerging artists. And he it's a hobby for him, just the design aspect of it. It was something that he really had fun doing. And so that's where the idea of the theater came from. And of course, I was completely on board with that, being
Hmm.
being a choreographer and a dancer.
Right.
And it makes me really happy to see theater and dance in the space, because now we have this spot for local artists to come
Hmm.
and showcase work, which I think is really valuable. Um, and yes, and I get to use it too sometimes, which is wonderful. I thought that I would move in. I thought when we were building it, I was like, I'm going to move into that theater. I'm going to learn the lighting system.
Hmm.
But what I've learned is that theater tech is a constantly moving picture. The space changes every show that comes into it. Everything moves. The
Yeah.
sets move, the lights move, and um, I haven't quite, I haven't learned as much as I was hoping to learn, although I still will. Um, but it is, it's kind of an alive space. It's always changing. Um,
Hmm.
when I do my shows, I love side light, and so
Yeah.
we got, we did get the booms and trees, and we have, for my shows, we put up side light, which is fantastic. Um, and my husband helped me build a giant life-size suspended cocoon out of chicken wire, and that's lowered down. Um,
That's amazing.
so we are having a lot of fun with it.
I mean, it's your theater, like as you should. I think there are definitely places that offer like theater tech classes,
Yeah,
like where you like can learn how to use all the equipment um in a theater. That was something that was required for my dance major, was that I had to take a theater tech class. It was called dance tech. No, it wasn't. It was called dance practicum.
I had to
Um,
take that class too. I remember.
yeah, okay. We're on the same wavelengths. But
I
yeah, I
bet
mean,
my class was very different though. I think
yeah,
technology has changed a lot. So we were learning about gels. Did you have to do gels or
we did. Yeah, we
okay?
did.
Because
We did.
gels, you don't see a lot of gels anymore.
Yeah, we work a lot with gels.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, we did gels, and then we also were in the booth for um some of the shows that was put on. And that was, yeah, that was super fun.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Yeah, we learned about all the terminology, like the psych
Yes.
and the blackout curtain.
Yes. Yes. The traveler.
Yeah. And I feel like that's another example too of dancers being like experts in or being professionals and stuff, along with composing music, because there's also like a lighting component too. And you kind of have to figure out the basic equations of putting all of like what gels, what lights do you need in order to create the type of lighting that you want
Yeah.
for
And you
a
have to
piece.
be able to go into a rented venue and converse with the tech people
Hmm.
in in a reasonably intelligent and informed way. And that took, even having taken some of those classes for me, that took a long time to understand how to have that conversation, and know, and also understand that it's different. Every theater tech is different, every theater is different, every set of equipment is different. You can ask for the lighting grid, or some prefer just a description of the mood of the piece that you want and the colors. Others want specific, knowing what the various lights are called. You know, is there an opportunity? Can you have a texture? Are there gobos?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is the terminology, and how do you efficiently ask for exactly what it is that you're looking for? Um, that that was definitely a learning curve for me, a
Right.
long learning curve, and I'm still
Yeah,
on it.
I can imagine. I mean, everything is like, every space is different. Every space, like, you could put the same lighting in any space, even if it's the same size, and it might not look quite the same as you would think.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. So do you watch all the shows that perform at the theater?
No, I don't. I miss a lot of them. I
Mm.
try to go when, because we split time, we're in Annapolis often on the weekends.
Mhm.
So I miss a lot of the weekend shows. Not all though. I we go. I mean, some of the theater shows and the dance shows, I absolutely go to. I plan
Yeah.
for and I go. If we're around and there are things happening at the theater, we often just stop by and see a little bit of it. Um, but no, I miss a lot really
Gotcha. No,
because
that's fair.
there's a lot happening.
That's fair. There's a lot of moving parts to life. So that's perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
So, I guess we are reaching the end of this episode. So I only have a couple more questions for you.
Great.
Um, so regarding your theater, um, if you were to have anything in that theater, well, besides the LEDs, which you mentioned, if you were to have anything in particular in your theater that you would want to work with, but you don't have, what would that be?
Um, that I could start listing things and then just keep going.
Uh-huh.
I I gosh, what's at the top of the list? Well, I want lights everywhere with full capability, LED capability, where you can turn the wheel and have, light purple from this side and mint
Yeah,
green from that side, or whatever it is. Um, Sets. I love sets, but those have to be designed and built. That's that's oh, I know what I would want. I would want storage for all of my stuff. I want unlimited sets and costume storage so that
yes,
I could keep creating and keep it all for the next time I do it. Yeah, I think that's what I really want. I want to keep creating, and I run out of space. Yeah, I don't want to always have my storage all over the place here at the house.
that's fair. That is what it looks like when dance becomes your life.
Marley, we don't have Marley floors yet. That's on the wish list.
Hmm.
We have a good floor, but it's not Marley, and I do want Marley at some point.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just imagine when I think of unlimited storage, I just think of like this portal to like an unlimited like storage closet.
That takes no space in the real world.
Exactly.
I love it.
And everything looks so pristine. And then people are like, how do you keep your theater so clean? Like that's amazing.
Yes, that sounds great.
But you don't want to tell people about your secret portal because yeah, people want to put their stuff in it and then people might be concerned.
Yeah, your own secret portals.
Yeah, we love secret portals. So I mean, is there anything I mean this I don't have any question. I don't have any more questions. Um, but before we end the episode, is there anything else you wanted to add, whether it's regarding morals, your expertise, your theater. Um, any of that?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I think your questions were great.
Thank you.
Um, I will say, and you may already know this, but Kinetics Dance Theater is celebrating its 40th anniversary this
Yeah,
fall. So it would be really nice if you can make it to see you there.
I'll be there. I'm in two pieces.
Okay, excellent. Well, then I will look forward to seeing you
I'm excited.
in
Yeah,
October.
I'm
I'm really
excited.
excited too. I hope that lots of people come back. I have
Right. I
really
mean,
fond
what
memories.
what a huge milestone for such a prominent studio in our lives. Like that is so
Yeah,
cool.
40 years is pretty good.
Yeah,
Impressive for a community nonprofit.
it definitely is. I think that says a lot about the studio.
Yeah, it's a
Wh-
special place.
it definitely is very special. Well, okay. Yeah. So this does reach the end of the episode. Thank you, Lauren, once again for being a guest
Thank you
on
so
the
much for
show.
having me.
It was fun. It was fun. I love these discussions.
This was fun.
Yay. So, audience, you will hear me in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching this episode of Dissecting Dance Kicking It with Ren podcast. If you can hear the wonderful background music, those are water bottles. This is your sign that you should relax and drink some water. Anyways, a new episode will be uploaded every other Thursday. Thank you for watching.